Well, hello everyone. I hope we're doing all very well indeed. And it's time to make another video as always. We're going to look at alignments all over Europe because the Giza religion was practiced all over Europe. We're going to prove it. It's so exciting. First, I want to talk about Cybermen. Cybermen are in Doctor Who. Americans might not know about this, but it's quite a popular show over here in Australia. I've always watched it, but I've been getting a lot of weird attacks lately, and comments and strange attacks, and people say they don't like the video, and you ask them why they don't like the video, they don't know why. They just attack again. It's like you're talking to a robot. I'm thinking, what robots have I triggered? What's going on here? This is really weird. And I can understand why some channels switch off the comments. It's really strange. I don't know why people watch it if they don't like it. People are just acting up. Maybe it's the epidemic or something. I don't know. In a previous video, so we talked about Giza pyramids. A startling discovery reveals the true origin, and we were talking about causeways and so forth. And we were saying these are processionals for the sunrise. So sunrise at different dates, and that's what it's all about. And some people have said, no, you don't know anything about Christianity. You don't know what you're talking about. Guys, I know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why you're watching, and that's why I'm making these videos as a hobby. It's a lot of fun. Now, there's something weird about Egypt, and we can prove that this religion was practiced all over Europe. The remnants are all over Europe today. Europe had exactly the same religion as ancient Egypt. Exactly the same. We've already shown that Osiris comes from Russia and look, honestly, maybe even from Doggerland. We'll show that in a future video. But these are obelisks, and obelisks are found over here on this side of the Nile. Pyramids are found over here on this side of the Nile. Okay, you're going to say, well, that's interesting. What's going on? Well, the obelisk points to the sunrise, and the Romans, like Pliny, pointed out that the obelisks seem to be a solar ray descending to heaven, spreading outwards. And that the pyramid is obviously deaf because there are tombs nearby. So sun setting is death, sun rising is life. The obelisk is the life, right? So this festival, which was done in ancient Egypt, can explain everything about the pyramid causeways and about what is happening in Europe. This was celebrated all over Europe. It's called Beautiful Festival of the Valley, and of course there were valley temples. The temples in the east. And this was a celebration of the dead, more ancient than the Opet festival. That's good for us because we're looking for a worldwide religion. We discussed the Opet festival in the previous it's the Holy Families Festival, and later it may have become the birth of Muhammad, October the 28th. It was said to be held as a remembrance of the dead from the beginning of the Middle Kingdom. However, when joined with the festival of Opet, the holy procession became the main event of the liturgical calendar of Thebes. The annual festival was held on the new moon of month 2. This was the summer season, Shemu, and the 10th month of the calendar of 12. During Hatshepsut's reign, she carried out both the Opet and Beautiful Festival of the Valley to Amun. Now listen to this. The festival could go for several days. It was a colourful, joyous, and this happened all over Europe. Pay attention, please. This is so good. Joyous occasion for the people of Thebes. The procession would be led by Amun from the east. Rising sun, new life and direction of living to the west. Setting sun, land of the dead. A prince or picture of Amun decorated with a broad collar and sun disk would be led by priests down the Nile to a ceremonial boat or bark. The bark would be placed in a ship known as the Uzerhet that was covered with gold and precious metals. The Uzerhet would be followed by boats for Mut and Konsu. Konsu is the baby, to form the Theban triad. The procession proceeded to the Temple of Million Years. Temple of Million Years, that's an analogue for Stonehenge, for pyramid. Now you're heading towards the west, where the town people would sacrifice food and drink as well as flowers to a flotilla of boats. Great quantities of flowers would be presented, as it is believed by the Egyptian culture that the flowers became filled with the essence of the deity. Townspeople then took these flowers to their relatives' tombs. This is why people take flowers to tombs, people. to pay their respects and ensure the revival of the deceased's spirit. They would drink and sleep on the deceased's tombs as different levels of consciousness blessed the dead and brought them closer to God. Amun's shrine was brought into the Giza-Europe to reaffirm the bond between King of the Gods and King of the People. But what I really want you to take away is the sacred barks of here it's called the wind deity Amun-Ra and his consort Mut and son Khonsu. Mut is the wife. Mutter, you see, Mut. It's Germanic. Egyptian is Germanic. Left the temple at Karnak in order to visit the funerary temples of deceased royalty on the west bank and their shrines in the Theban necropolis. In other words, it's a journey from east to west. It's a processional. This whole festival of the valley is a processional carrying an ark. And we see this all over Europe, from UK to Poland. So when I was in Poland, I was struck by this. It's awfully beautiful. Jasna Gora, it's a fortress. And when the Swedes tried to take this in the 1600s, they failed because there was a holy icon of the Virgin there. And I thought to myself, well, that must mean that it's a holy hill. And when I approached this, you approach it on a very, very long processional. I've measured it. It's 1.3 miles. And you just keep walking along this path. And then you're slowly climbing. As you go up the path, you're climbing what feels like a very low square pyramid. And I was looking around for ancient ruins, but of course it's been totally messed up by people renovating and fixing it. It's a very long equinoctial processional. And I thought to myself, this is like the Stonehenge cursus, but in the modern world. And this must be unbelievably ancient. So on this side you have the pyramid, just like, say, at Giza, you have the pyramid, and then you have running across the causeway, and then you have a valley temple. So I've measured this, and yes, it's 2.21 kilometers, 1.38 miles. And the distance between Karnak and Thebes, the east-west processional they did, was about a mile. So if I go down here to Street View, if I zoom in, we can see what it looks like. It's absolutely unbelievable. So looking in that direction, we see this. Let's stand over here. And over in the distance, all the way over there well, the communists have plunked an obelisk there. It's actually a huge chimney next to a church. But you turn around this way, it looks like we're close to the shrine. So as I said, you walk up this path, it goes on literally forever, and then you're slowly walking up this shallow hill, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it goes on, and this is the Vatican of Poland, the holiest part of Poland. People are praying like crazy here. It's unbelievable. Looks like that's the limit of the Google car. And we go back up again. Let's go up. Up. And it looks like on this end, traditionally there must have been some obelisk or something, and the communists replaced it with a chimney because they wanted people to look at the communism instead. So there's actually a church on this other end, which is right there. And the chimney is, let's look for the chimney. It's slow. But there's the chimney, you see. So the communists believe in ley lines too. And there's the little church at the other end of this enormous 1.2 mile or 2 kilometer enormous, crazy, ley line, equinoctial temple. It's unbelievable. And there's more throughout Europe. So with Stonehenge, you have the obelisk again, just like in Egypt and just like at Jasna Gora. You have the obelisk on the east side, the heel stone, and you have the temple, the pyramid, the place of death. So, and it's a sunlight processional going into Stonehenge from that obelisk, the sun rising over that obelisk. It's just like Egypt. And it goes on and on. So that's that alignment there with the heel stone. The hell stone, by the way, heel is hell. The heel is on the bottom. It's on your foot. So if you look at a totem pole, the foot of the statue is the heel. Now, that's also equinoctial. Sun and day are equal, but not quite. It's a few days off. And that's also equinoctial. So that there is a processional on the avenue coming out of Stonehenge, as well as a solstice processional. I wonder what that processional is. Maybe something for the moon, or it just goes straight to the river, passing Vespasian's camp. I'll have to get the software out to calculate that one, to calculate that one, and to calculate that one. 3 holy days. So it's just like the pyramids. There's alignments coming out of every pyramid. There's 3 of them, you see, just like at Stonehenge. This was throughout Europe. So Stonehenge cursus, same thing. So at the Stonehenge cursus, which is this above Stonehenge, you're starting from the east, and you do a processional to the west to talk to the dead. And the dead are in this tomb in the west, which is the pyramid here. And it's only on the western side of this processional cursus. Just like those alignments shooting out of the pyramids have the pyramids on just the western side. And then they're shooting towards the Nile. Maybe they're pointing at an obelisk far off in the distance. And what would have been carried in the processional? This is Matthew Paris. Matthew Paris wrote this chronicle. I really studied this guy in history and at university. And they're carrying the shrine of St. Alban, and he's drawn this. He's not an eyewitness, he's drawing the past. And he's written this in the life of Otto. And St. Alban was a early Christian martyr of Britain. St. Alban's was the main centre a day north of London. And as you see, it's like carrying the Ark of the Covenant. It's like ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, they would have been carrying a solar boat. So what happens is there's a boat, and then there's the sun god standing in the middle. And there are many processionals. For example, at one time, the king carried the holy blood of Christ, what he thought was the holy blood of Christ, which he found in France. And he carried this from London by him to the shrine of St. Alban. And so he was walking. He dressed up as a pauper, and he was looking at heaven all the way while he was carrying this holy blood. And then he ordered Matthew Paris, "You have observed all these things, and you have seen them impressed in your mind. Yes, my lord, for the splendid events of the day are worthy of being recorded." Then the king said to Matthew Paris, I therefore beseech you to write an accurate and full account of all these proceedings, and write them in a noble and intelligible script in a book, that their memory may not in any way be lost to posterity. So they wanted to record all these events that were happening. How much has happened that has not been recorded? Round towers in Ireland. There's a beautiful place called Glendalough. I've shown you the pictures in other videos. We don't need to go over that. I've shown you a beautiful Mayan-like temple here. We don't need to go over that. The round tower, the clock, the cloaked heath, is a familiar part of Irish monasteries. And here you see it on the west side of where churches are. Here, this is a bit of a different complex. It's usually on the west side, just like a pyramid, just like an Egyptian pyramid. So here's a place called Kells, and there's the round tower there, right there. There's the church. It's on the west side of the church, and you see a lot of this again and again and again. It's always on the west side. So there may have been a processional from the church going towards the west to the round tower to somehow talk to the dead. And I think these round towers were built after dead monks sometimes, but no one really knows why they were built. And the explanation that they were to hide from the Vikings is a bunch of baloney. You'll notice churches also have retained the east-west worship of the ancestors. There's a bloke called Henry O'Brien, 1830s. He died aged only 27. He said, and he wrote a brilliant book, The Round Towers of Ireland. He said that the Round Towers of Ireland are the same equivalent as the Egyptian pyramids. And he was working on a book on Egypt when he mysteriously died. And I have the David Hatcher Childress version. Childress suggests possibly a Vatican conspiracy against him even. So there you go. Yeah, so you have more. So this is what you see in the Isle of Man. It's the same thing. So on one side you have a pyramid. Guess which side? West or east? Guess. It's the west. And here you have the church or the obelisk, the tower. Now a pyramid in Egyptian means the apex of a building, right? That's the oldest form. I made this video years ago. That's the oldest word for pyramid. That's what pyramid means, the apex. So here you have, well, essentially the mound of the dead, but here you have something more like an obelisk. Let's check the alignment. Bingo, it's equinoctial. There's the pyramid. As you see, it's round pyramid. It's a step pyramid, equinoctial alignment, the cursus. It's another form of the Stonehenge cursus. There's something in the middle. There was something also in the middle over at Częstochowa in Poland. There was some shrine in the middle. If we go back to 2D, check this out. So right, there's Jasna Gora, there's the church with the communist smokestack. Right there in the middle is another shrine. We see the same thing here at Tunwald Hill. There's something there, I guess. Oh, it's a Celtic cross. You can tell from the shadow. So there's a holy Celtic cross in the middle. So we have a triple temple, as it were, but we have this processional. So what would have happened here in very ancient times, they would have gathered up the holy relics and they would have done a processional. Their shadows would have been pointing in front of them, pointing the way. The sun rose behind them and they deposited the relic here at the sacred Tunwald Hill. The ancient Egyptian religion is all over Europe. I hope you've loved this video. Give it a big fat thumbs up and screw all the haters. They can get lost. Cheers, guys.